All right, let's talk validation rules. So, of course, validation rules have been around for quite a long time, and they're a great tool for admins, right? Very easily, you can say, "Hey, I want to require a certain field when there's a condition on another field." So, as we take a look in our example today, we're going to take a look at value proposition, and when it goes to value proposition, we want to require next step. Simply click save, and it works. However, validation rules can cause havoc within your org. And as a consultant, right, we will help clients to build these great business processes, great flows, maybe a little bit of code, and everything's working perfectly. Then an admin will go in and they'll create a validation rule. And in this case, we're just going to pretend it's this validation rule. When it goes to value proposition, we want next step to be filled out. And the next thing you know, we're getting a call from the company. They've created this validation rule. They tested it in Sandbox, even deployed it to production, but all of a sudden, none of the renewals are working for this client. And so we get a call, we go, we investigate, and as we have our debugs on and taking a look at things, we notice that there's a validation rule that requires next step to be filled out when the stage moves to value proposition. Well, it just so happens that the renewals in an org might default to a different stage than a new opportunity will. So as a result, in an example, again, kind of fictitious example, but we've had similar things happen in real life. All of the renewals will get created in the value proposition stage. And because we're creating the renewal automatically through a business process, we're not filling in next step. So as a result, none of the renewals are going to work in this situation. Now, I've talked about using custom settings to bypass certain validation rules, and we have a webinar on that if you want to take a look. But sometimes that is still a very hard rule, and we don't necessarily need all of the power that a validation rule brings in. We're really looking at it from a UI element. Additionally, the issue that we have here is if we click cancel here and relook and go to value proposition, next step doesn't show us that it's a required field. And so you might get a lot of reps frustrated saying, man, I didn't know this field was required. I'm always saving. And man, this experience is not great. Well, I'm pretty excited to talk about this. I love Lightning. Have from the beginning was a Lightning champion. I'm just going to go ahead and deactivate this validation rule. But one of the things that Lightning now has are Lightning pages with fields. So on this Lightning page, I've actually gone and upgraded the page. So instead of using the standard page layout, I'm using fields from Lightning. You have your field components, universally required fields, and then fields. Then on our next step field, on the right-hand side, you can see here that we have this UI behavior. We have none, read only, and required. This is great. This is really what you need from that perspective. If you don't have any validations that you need, you just put none. If you want to require something and have it validated, you can put in required. And if you want to have it be read only, you can have it be read only. So how does this really help us? Well, this is the neat part about Lightning pages. So first, I have filters here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in a filter, and I'm going to say the stage is not equal to value proposition. This means that this field will show, and there is no requirement when the stage is not equal to value proposition. So we're about halfway there, right? Now what we can do is we can add that field back again to the opportunity page. But this time I'm going to make it required. And now I'm only going to show this field when my stage is equal to value proposition. I'm going to go ahead and click save. We're going to go take a look at what happens. So now that the changes are saved, we come back, we're going to refresh our page, and we're going to go ahead and change our stage from needs analysis to value proposition. First thing you can see is next step is now a required field, and it's not going to let me save it without it being filled out, one, and two, it's showing me the red asterisk. So from a user experience perspective, my user knows, hey, I've got to fill out this field, but it's not preventing me from doing something within the API or within a different process that isn't a UI process. So not my business processes that I might want to happen no matter what still can. So, what does that look like? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the developer console. We have our opportunity here and we have our stage. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it just a little bit better. And I'm going to change this stage to value proposition. Now that I've done that, I simply click save rows and we go back to our opportunity. We're going to refresh this. And now our opportunity is in value proposition. The system didn't break. I don't have any issues from a validation rule that I would have had previously. However, as a user, if I try to just go change the close date on this, I'm going to go get an error because I need to have this next step filled out. So now that I've filled out the next step field, because value proposition is the selected pick list value for stage, it does require that next step field. But again, it requires it through that UI element. So this is a really, really great way to, again, not kind of throw some hard validation within your system, but more of a soft validation that you want that user in that experience, in that moment to be able to fill out. So thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate it and hope to see you on the next one. Thanks.